You are now listening to Halal Talks.
So what are you guys' thoughts on homeschooling versus just public school? Because now there's kind of that integration of both. There's been the high school, but then how was homeschooling? What was that experience like?
Homeschooling one-on-one with your kids at home, it's not for everyone. And very few people can actually do it well. I've actually seen it not done very well. And that's not fair to the kids. So there's some people who are just diehard homeschoolers and they think that's all you can do. And if you don't homeschool, you're going to lose your kids. I don't believe that. And I don't believe there's one answer for everyone. Kids can go to public school and be fine as well, as long as the home is a safe place and the home is an oasis in the storm that we're in right now. But obviously we feel like we found the sweet spot, which is homeschooling cooperatively, homeschooling with other families and teaching each other's children. If you want to see homeschooling done right, I would look to my sister. I think she's done an amazing job with her kids, mashallah. You know them, Marham, right?
Yeah.
Like she's educating them really well, and they have chores, and they're getting outside experiences. So,
She's
mashallah.
she brings in tutors.
Yeah, she's got
So
it.
they pay for tutors to come to the house for subjects that she can't teach. So
Or
it's
doesn't
knowing
want
what
to
you
teach.
can't do and knowing what you can do and doing it all in some way.
Yeah, and being disciplined,
And
you
being
know,
disciplined.
being disciplined, having a schedule. So homeschooling cooperatively forced me to be disciplined because I'm not a very disciplined person. And so now all of a sudden when other people are depending on me and we have to be at a certain place by a certain time, that was really good for me. So yeah, if depending on what your community looks like. But the main thing is the home. Like, what is the environment in the home like? If you can homeschool cooperatively or do homeschool one-on-one or do private Islamic school or do public school, but if the home life is a mess, that's what's going to affect the kids first and foremost.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to the programmability of people. Your children are going out, whatever their reality is, and you have to have a really good home that they come back to that works. And for every no, they get 2 yeses. And I think new parents have to understand the gray area, not that duality like you're either Pakistani or American, because that just doesn't exist. There are some immigrant parents that maybe think that way, and I think that would be my advice to them is just really that's not what the way it is. So they need to think about that. And yeah, we've seen some. I was telling Hina the other day about this one boy who we know in the mosque, and he's gone to public school his whole life, and I just like, wow, well, he is an amazing individual. I want to know what his parents are doing. And then homeschooling kids struggle too, so it's not one size fits all answer, but it's having that consciousness of where you're going with your deen and building it with love, solidifying it in the children, and then guiding them as they navigate their way and having them trust you and say, hey, I'm troubled here. Being friends enough to know what your children are going through, even if you're not going to solve their problems, finding the uncles, finding the places that they can go.
Because would you even say that, or maybe let me ask you this, was homeschooling a route to kind of protect them and to keep them within Islam, or was it because of the education system and you didn't believe in the public education system?
Well, I was a public school teacher. I taught high school and middle school language arts, and I've also worked in preschools. A lot of people assume that the reason we chose homeschooling was for religious reasons, but actually it wasn't. I decided to homeschool my oldest son because he was meeting his milestones really, quote unquote, late. And to the point where like every milestone was so, whether it was getting potty trained, whether it was walking, whether it was talking, whether it was eating independently, everything was so at the end of the spectrum. It was to the point where I thought I had to get like professional intervention or analysis, but he was actually totally fine. He just had his own schedule that he was operating on. And so I didn't want him to go to kindergarten and get labeled. I didn't want him being labeled a slow learner. And I thought, and a friend of mine said, well, have you thought of maybe homeschooling him? Kindergarten, legally, you're not required to send them to public school. So she's like, why don't you work with him for a year, see how he does, And then, and at the time I was like, that's for you granola heads. That's not for us. Yeah, us desis, we send our kids to school. Like homeschooling was not for me at all. But then I decided to try it out. I'm like, what the heck, just for a year, we'll see. And I liked what I saw. I saw results, and we worked at our own pace, and he didn't have pressure, and we had fun. And so then I thought, okay, we'll just do it one more year. And literally every year it was like, we'll just do it one more year. And then when I realized that we didn't have to do Sunday school, I didn't have to give up my weekend to teach him his religion, like it was all integrated in the homeschooling, I thought, why not just keep doing this, And I always thought the minute it doesn't work, they'll go to school. But alhamdulillah, Allah kept us going. And now I have some friends who've done the opposite, where they had their kids go to public school and everything up until 8th grade and then pulled them out for high school. And it hasn't worked for them necessarily as far as giving them the confidence in the religion and the identity. I think, honestly, if you can give them a strong identity in the early years, then inshallah, they can have confidence in who they are when they go out.
Sending them somewhere where their heart is going to incline towards everything and then ripping them from that environment. Yeah. I don't know if you think about it that way, I don't know why you would do that. I went from being here through 9th grade and loving Clayton Valley High School in Concord and having a great experience, happy-go-lucky as I was, to going to an all-boys British school in Saudi Arabia, and I felt like literally ripped and yanked. And the reason why I accepted it was because my father had to earn, and I had to go where he earned. So I had to, I was a dependent. I was a child. And the thought of living without my parents was ridiculous too. So I accepted it. But to be in the same environment and not be ripped from that environment, I don't know how that would work. Right. Yeah. Just knowing what I went through, I spent 2 years in Saudi Arabia in complete isolation in a school that was not even prepared. It was just 2 kids sitting in a corner of a class. There was three of us in a class. And so ripping somebody from what they hold dear is not a good way to go, because you're playing, it's kind of like playing with fire in a way, because what is their reaction going to be,